One purpose for me that is I feel like this is bigger than just myself. I think is like changing the narrative with Black men and their masculinity and how vulnerable they are with each other or with their, with just the world.
In this conversation, we're able to pop into downtown Los Angeles and speak with Ailrick Young Jr. Ailrick is a graphic designer at Beats by Dre, but more importantly, we started thinking about the group and the conversations that we want to have. Our favorite part of speaking with Ailrick is that he's very much in process. As a man who has moved all the way from the rural South to Los Angeles to pursue his vision of expanding his narratives and culture and diversity and the way that he wants to shape his life, we felt that this would be a gorgeous example of a man that could ask new questions with us, who could have open conversations about traditional narratives around masculinity and exploring femininity and stepping into your own. This is a great conversation starter because we are all in process. We are all exploring new facets of our life and figuring out how do we want to live. And so I think that you are going to find something in here that belongs to you. And if you do, we please ask that you share this conversation with someone that you love and care about so we can grow together. My girls, my guys, my group. This is MG Method, the show. So where are you originally from?
Hattiesburg, Mississippi. It's a small town, South Mississippi. It's like an hour and a half north of New Orleans and an hour south of Jackson, which is like the capital.
And what would you say the culture is for like where you're from? What was kind of your hometown dynamic and the way of life? How would you describe it?
It's definitely like a small community. Everyone knows everyone. You get in trouble, someone is calling your mother.
Wow.
Like it's, you're acting up and, oh, I saw such and such acting up at the park. By the time you get home, like mom is waiting for you with the switch. But yeah, everyone kind of knows everyone. We kind of look out for each other, which is something I really appreciate about like the Southern culture. Yeah, we just really like pour into each other. And so like all of us are real close knit in that way. Yeah.
We're always exploring how family influences, who you are. What would you say your role was in your specific family?
Learning to be a protector and a provider. I think that was something that my dad was very adamant about. So just learning like all the tools that he had learned like as a man. So basically being his shadow in a sense, and with hopes of one day that like I would take over, his duties or responsibilities, or if he was not able to handle any of those things, like I could step in.
What would you say your interests were as a child?
I thought I was gonna be a zoologist. I love Steve Irwin. I wanted like my own show when I grew up. I don't know why I got away from that. I think like maybe because I was into sports and it kind of pulled me away. But yeah, I was just into everything. I was drawing, I was reading books, I was even like science books, whatever type of book that just seemed like it was interesting, I was just into. Very rambunctious. I think like I was constantly like talking or asking questions. I was very inquisitive, always like challenging why things were the way that they were. Like if it didn't make sense like logically to me, I think like I asked a lot of questions, and I'm sure I drove my mother crazy.
Gonna ask. Yeah, do you feel like people held space for that? Were you encouraged to kind of, no? Yeah.
No, not at all. I think it's more of like, I think it's more of like or at least in the South, and like the family structures that I was in, it was kind of like, because I said so, it was like that kind of thing. This is the way things are. So like, it didn't matter if like, it didn't make sense to me, or maybe I thought like it could have been done in a different way. Like, this is the way it is. these are the rules, this is what I said, you know, and like, it was kind of just left at that.
Yeah. I feel like the pendulum is kind of swinging a little bit. Like I grew up very much with like, I'm an adult, and because that's what I said, you know, this is what I said and that goes. So now we feel like, now we notice so many more people are very active in questioning those systems, questioning the way that we do everything, and, you know, kind of trying to find this like equilibrium between, you know, rules and structure and them being necessary, but also having space to kind of say, like, how can we reinvent this thing, or how can we explore it to find new ways of doing something that are more efficient or more inclusive, you know? For myself, from someone as being like a West Coast girl, we always heard about the South in very interesting ways. And honestly, a lot of times I felt like the focus was on a lot of the pain that is deeply rooted in the South. What would you say is some of the beautiful things about the South that many people might not have ever heard?
I think family and community is very important. I think, you know, as I was saying earlier, we're all like very close, you know, from household to household to neighborhood to neighborhood. We don't really like travel too far away from home. Like me coming to California was like huge. It was a huge deal for my family and even like for myself. Furthest like we move away from home is like the next city over or something, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe.
I came from this area and I'm in Los Angeles. I'm in a major city.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's definitely like humbling. And yeah, it makes me, I don't know, it just coming out here, and I think like that's another part of being out here like with the cigar, like enjoying like this and this view, just like, it brings me back to like center, like, damn, like, this is a place that you've gotten to in your life, like something you didn't necessarily like see for yourself, but like, yeah, just enjoy this time, like celebrate yourself, like celebrate this win, give yourself your flowers, you know, like the people say.
Yeah. You as a football player in the South, sometimes there's this idea beyond sport, right? Like that you're an artist as well, you know, and an athlete can also be an artist in the way that they see the world. How was it growing up as a creative in the South?
I think there really wasn't like a lot of representation. I think like on many fronts. First of all, just being like a young Black man, like not having like that representation of too many other like Black creatives in my life or like that I could look up to. But then also, it's really kind of unheard of for like someone that is like this football player, this tough guy, to be like this artist that's, you know, kind of in touch with like these types of things. And that was definitely something like I would get teased on, you know, in the locker room. Like, oh, you draw and you paint, like,
really?
Who are you supposed to be? You know, like that kind of thing. Like, so it was never really like encouraged in that atmosphere or in that arena, so.
Like what type of things do you think help actually create confidence in someone or in you?
Things that I necessarily started to do?
What things do you kind of rely on or things that you pour into that help you build that confidence?
I think it first started with the people that I was surrounding myself with, giving me like that space to be able to be myself and to tell me like, yo, like, what's wrong with you wanting to go to the flower market? Like, who are you concerned about? Like, you know, and what does that mean if you go to the flower market? So they would ask me like these very real questions, and like, it would challenge me like, wait, well, why is it a problem for me to do this or be vulnerable in this way or to do things that I would assume like some other men would think like, oh, like that's soft or like that's weak. Like, who are you worried about? And I think like that was the first step, just having the right people in my life that gave me that space to like be myself and like support me in that way. I guess that kind of opened the door for me to realize like there's nothing wrong with like talking about your feelings or being like expressive in these ways or vulnerable. Yeah, so I'm just very thankful for like some of the people I've been having in my life the past few years.
Yeah. One of the things that many people have struggled with is like, how do I give myself permission to enjoy that experience? Because there has been, friction or, guilt, almost like a guilt and shame that sometimes people feel to actually enjoy life. Like to listen to the music, to smoke the cigar for you, to paint. What would you say to someone who feels guilty for creating those little moments in their day?
Well, what do you mean? Like, well, why would they feel guilty for having those moments?
I think it's just kind of come up like some of it is some of the programming of, I should be doing this or I should be working. And there's just this maybe I wouldn't say misconception, but some people have expressed with us that it's just a challenge to enjoy themselves, And so as someone, for you, we really respect that about you. It seems that you have found a way to design your life where you have these even micro moments of joy. How did you come to that?
I don't know. I guess just at some point, like, I just realized like, yo, you definitely need to make time for yourself. And you should not feel any kind of way about that. Like, especially like right now, with everything that's been going on. And I tell like my friends and family, like, make time for you, protect your peace, like do things that serve you, like not in a selfish way, but like make time for yourself. Like there's nothing wrong with that. That's not really selfish. Like, are you gonna run yourself into the ground because you're not making time for yourself, or you're worried about like whatever this thing is that's like bringing negativity in your life is gonna feel? Like, no, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
How often do you check in to see if you need time for your peace?
Oh, I think every day for me, for sure. But it comes in different ways. Like, I don't necessarily have to like smoke the cigar just to have like time for myself. Time for myself can also be like going on a run. I mean, I think like that's like something that allows me to be in like my own zone. I am, I guess, escaping whatever stress I had for the day and letting it like melt away with the run. I'm able to kind of push myself and push my body in ways that kind of bring me back to like sports in a way. And so it's just like, it's a nice relief. I know that it's like it's something that's benefiting like my body as well. So,
do you think that there is a connection for people with using physical movement as something to foster emotional well-being?
I think so. I think at least for me, it definitely can always help like a stressful situation for me.
Do you feel that you have a strong sense of purpose in your life?
I think so. I think that has definitely been a long journey, trying to figure that out. Just realizing that like, it's mine to own first and foremost. It is not something that someone else should be dictating for me, or me trying to live up to someone else's expectation or what like they see from me, but just, coming to the realization that like, it's something like you got to figure out for yourself what's going to like make you happy. Yeah, and I mean, I think like also realizing it could be multiple things. It doesn't need to just necessarily just be like one path. There's like multiple things that like I feel like I have a purpose or like want to accomplish in life or change the narrative on like different things. Yeah, but for sure.
If someone said to you, what are the things that make you feel comfortable in your purpose? What sort of things come to mind for you?
I think seeing like, are you impacting or influencing people in the right way or in a positive way? I think one purpose for me that is I feel like this is bigger than just myself. I think is like changing the narrative with Black men and their masculinity and how vulnerable they are with each other or with their, with just the world. And I think like I've been slowly like building a community of friends and peers in which like, where we create this space where we can talk about like some of these things and you don't, normally I think like the default answer, when you ask guys like, hey, how you doing? I'm good. Like,
Yes.
I'm good. Yeah. But like, nah, you're not. Like, what's up? Like, oh, I'm dealing with this, or like, I'm hurt about this, or, like, I love those conversations and I really enjoy them, like, because, you don't have to keep that in,
Yeah.
You have a community or a friend group of people that you can be honest and real with, like, that's healing, and that's growth. Like, you don't have to have these scars that you hold on your own. Like, you can share this with like this community and they can, give you the support or feedback you need to kind of work through that, or, give you their own experiences in which like, hey, like this is how I dealt with something similar. Like, this is how I made it through that. Like, and I think like, yeah, essentially like that's just a positive thing that benefits like us all, Yeah. And that's why I say like that purpose is beyond like something like it's just for myself. Like I just hopefully like that is something that like shifts a whole culture in a way,
Yeah. What is something that might be an obstacle that you're facing that you might feel comfortable sharing with us that you might not have shared, or something that people might not know? What's been a challenge for you in your life most recently?
I think I feel a lot. I feel I have a lot more feelings and emotions than like I was ever able to like express or be allowed to feel before. I think like growing up, I was always told to kind of, like keep it in or like be tough or like don't show weakness or emotion. Real men don't, do these things. And I think like, I don't think like that's entirely true, I don't think like the measure of a man is a matter of like him showing emotion or vulnerability. And I think like me just realizing like that truth that you are allowed to be vulnerable. You can show moments of emotion. I think like that's something like I'm working through. I think like maybe it's been bottled up for a long time. And so learning how to like regulate that to where just like you have it closed up for so long and then finally you realize, oh, I can let this out, and just you don't want it to like overwhelm. So there's a balance there, and like trying to figure out like how to manage like those emotions and feelings and like how to communicate them effectively.
Yeah, I feel like we're still, especially just as a culture, still learning strategies and how to do that. I remember the first time I went to a therapist and she was like, how are you feeling? And I was like, I'm happy, or, and I only really knew either end of the spectrum, which is that I was like raging and pissed off or happy, and I didn't really know anything in between. And so, like learning language to put those to describe even some of those feelings was very humbling because it wasn't really something that I learned. You know, it was new language to me, and something I feel that many of us are still trying to explore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Therapy is something that I have not done yet, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely something that I would love to do. It was something I had built myself up to go through before COVID had happened. I had, put it out there to my friends that like, hey, like I'm really serious about going to therapy. I really want to start. I was reaching out to people asking for recommendations. But I was also very nervous. I think I romanticized like the situation so much because I love to talk to people, but I also, but I want it to be somebody like I'm comfortable with and like that gets me and that's relatable. And I think like I was scared that I wasn't gonna find the right person and I was gonna be jumping from therapist to therapist, trying to find the right fit. And then eventually it was going to just throw me off of it altogether. Because it's like, oh, well, this isn't for me. Like I can't find the right person. Like, so I was definitely scared about that. And I think like I was dragging my feet. And I think like COVID happened and then it was like, oh, well, clearly like you can't do that now. And I think at this point, I think it shifted in the way that they do things. I think from some people that I know that do therapy, they say it's like a FaceTime thing or over the phone, which I'm not like opposed to anything, but I think, like I said, I think like I've romanticized the situation so much to having like this amazing bond with this therapist that I can go like just lay down on this comfortable couch and like just talk about my feelings and like they get me and they ask challenging questions and all this. And I'm like, I think I'm just romanticizing like the situation so much. And I think like if it's not gonna be like this perfect thing that I envisioned with, just having this amazing therapist and being able to just come in person and lay down on this nice couch and they can ask me challenging questions and we just get each other and all of this. Like, it's just, honestly, it's frightened me a little more to kind of just take that step. I think also it's not something that is common in the South also. Like, it's just not, it is perceived as if you go to therapy, like you're crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I haven't spoken to my family about it as much. And not that they have necessarily made me feel that way, but I think just the idea of like the South and like that dynamic has just made me nervous to talk to them about that. I don't think they wouldn't be supportive of it. I think they definitely would, but yeah, I mean, that's just like another factor that just has me like nervous about it altogether.
Yeah, I think it's completely understandable. And, as you being someone who seeks out disrupting narratives, this is a fun one for you to play with in terms of, hey, that was like something that, my dad was always telling me that that's how they were raised too. Like, from his childhood, it was just like, this is, we only go. And I think that we definitely see a shift in the world now away from this narrative of like, we're only stepping into something when a crisis has happened. Like now we actively are curious about prevention and proactive. But I would definitely say there's been this like romanticized idea of, what therapists can be from movies and things that we've seen. So we go, where did we get this kind of narrative? Where did we get this idea? And like that's a connection, right? And in any connection, there's risk. And so for me, it wasn't, I definitely had that fear with a therapist and actually had somebody kind of like secretly like, hey, let's go to lunch. Oh, just kidding. You're going to therapy, which was like a gift, look at your face. We won't set you up. But this point is, is like, it doesn't, we all have these moments, whether it's with a job, with a romantic partner, where in order for us to actually experience the thing that, you know, can also help us evolve, there's risk, right? So you might meet a therapist that you don't connect to and that doesn't speak your language, but until you go and sit on their uncomfortable couch and realize that their room doesn't have the aesthetic that you imagined, you know, there's something for you there, even in that room. And so I'm constantly, and in the group at MG Method, we're constantly trying to figure out, you know, what are stories that no longer belong to us, you know, and being okay with taking that fear into the room. Is some of it is like, I want to feel not afraid to do it. And I'm like, you probably will, but you also can, you know, and so you bring that kind of trepidation with you, but you step into it. And I think that this is just gorgeous that you're thinking about what was I taught and where did that come from, and what does it open up for people when we start to be okay with things that scare us, you know, whether that's culture or narrative or upbringing or systems, you know. So this is part of your narrative disruption, I think. You are an artist, you design for a living, and part of one of the kind of sentiments that we keep hearing is that design is also influenced by what you're willing to kind of like leave behind. What is your process when you're designing? Like, how do you surrender to the creation, to the work? You know, how do you bring that in? Because you've been able to do that successfully with your career, with art. What's your strategy in doing that?
Just having the mindset that things can always be like pushed. Me and my friends always talk about like, there's always another level, you know, like never settle for like the first draft or like this peak that you've gotten to or whatever that case may be. There's always another place in which it can be pushed. You know, some of my mentors at work, like they tell me similar things, like might come up with a concept and they're like, oh, I think like it could be pushed in these ways. Like, have you thought about this or that? Yeah, just challenging yourself to be able to think in new ways as far as like leaving things behind. I think you can't be scared to like do something different or step outside of like these comfort zones that, you know, we're talking about, like these risks. Just because something is effective and worked good for one project does not mean that sequence or design system or something will work for this one, you know. Like, I think like you also have to constantly be studying in a sense, you know, just looking at inspiration, be open to new things, new experiences. Like a couple of rounds of like feedback, and where like they might pick a certain direction, like, oh, I like this one, and this one, but can we change these things about it? I'll present like another round and continue to like refine until we get to like one that they like.
How do you practice not taking it like personally? Do you ever feel like, oof?
That is something I probably need to work on, because I take all of it personally. Like, like I care about like the work I'm doing. I want to make sure like it's done well. I want it to be something like you appreciate moving forward with, something that'll be timeless, something that'll last the longevity of your brand. And I think that, I'd get very precious with it, and I want to make sure like I'm leading like the client in the right way. And I think that goes back into like having that communication and that trust. Like if they come to you, they are leaning on your like expertise. And so like, make sure like you are doing your due diligence to like make sure like it's the best possible outcome.
We've heard you say now multiple times that you kind of keep this challenge network, this network of people that kind of challenge you and challenge the way that you think and the way that you show up in the world. So some people are still trying to find their challenge network. They're still trying to find those people. So when you're looking, what sort of characteristics do you look for in those people in your challenge network, and leadership, if for someone who maybe doesn't feel like they have that in their life right now, but they'd like to foster that?
I think first and foremost, I think that like this network is gonna be like my family, like I'm looking for that family element first and foremost. Like, is this someone like I enjoy spending time with or talking to? Is this someone like I respect and is able to communicate like effectively to me? Are they giving me like tough love? Are they scared to like be real with me, keep it honest? Like, I think there's a lot of different variables there, but I just want it to be like a natural, genuine connection first and foremost. Then beyond that, it's just like, are you gonna hold me accountable? Are you gonna tell me like it is? Like, I don't want you to sugarcoat it. I don't want you to let me stop at that first draft. Like, you see like this potential that's there, like, then say that, like, and then, be honest. Don't, like it's not bad, like it's cool. Like, no, go in. Like, if you go off, like, if it's something that you see more, like, Ailrick, I think you need to do this. I think you need to push this. And I mean, beyond work, and the same thing in like life. Like, the friends that I hold close, like, they challenge me in the same way. Like, hey man, I don't think you necessarily handled that situation in the right way for this reason and that reason. Like, maybe you need to think about this or revisit this, that, and the other. I like being challenged and like in a healthy way, in a healthy environment. Same way, like I like competition in the same way. I like healthy competition. But yeah, I think first and foremost, I'm looking for like that genuine connection. I'm gonna say like I got some really great people like around me in this time, and I've been very thankful about it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it's also a testament to you like staying open to that too, though, like actively seeking out. I think, those relationships that ultimately do end up to be fulfilling in that way can also be uncomfortable. And this is kind of that idea that when you want to create a network of people that are going to challenge you, that doesn't feel great all the time,
No.
And so this is the difficult thing, is like deciphering, like you said, is it healthy? Is it reciprocal? Is it something that we can, because ultimately I think that, showing up for those challenges or those competitions ultimately do feel great, and they do feel, they contribute to our fulfillment and our joy.
Yeah. But it's like you said, like you have to show up.
You do.
Like, you want the smoke? You gotta show up.
Yeah.
If you're asking for the smoke, then you need to be able to take it. You need to handle it. Like, you're asking for like this feedback. Hey, what do you think? Like, if you trust their judgment and they're telling you like it's not there, then all right, cool, bet. Like,
and be with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to show up. This one was just having like, they just asked to like, just do something wild. Like, it's not something that is expected or we asked for, but like.
For the same property?
Yeah, just.
They just wanted to see. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So just like use a color like we wouldn't expect, or that's not in our thing, or like some layouts or stuff. So I know they don't have like a gradient, and they're not using like a purple or like this crazy type or black and white photos. Like,
why do you think they wanted to do that?
Oh, just to, I think like what we talked about before, just about like, you can always bring it back. But like, why don't you, scare somebody, and then, that's been a term that's been used with me before, like, scare us, and then like, we could dial it back some.
This is nice. I was thinking the other day about diversity in culture and upbringing and aesthetic and anything, and I couldn't think of one area that didn't benefit from having it.
Yeah.
Not one area in life that wouldn't benefit from having layers and different perspective and contribution in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's something that like I'm also learning, like another thing this past year for sure. You talk about like having different point of views and stuff, like this empathy for other people, being willing to be open-minded and to listen to, like, you're not gonna have all the answers on your own, and you'd be, naive to think that like you could just figure it out by yourself. I mean, there's this world is filled with so many different people and experiences and cultures, ethnicities, whatever, there's so much I feel like we can all like learn and take from each other. So the diversity is definitely something I think is beneficial.
Yeah. What does it mean to you to honor your life?
It would just be to really be true to myself. I think like letting go of whatever anyone else's expectations were of me and just really living my life to the fullest. Giving good energy to people. I think that was something I struggled with when I was younger. I definitely had all the tools to be very manable and like respectful and just give out this good energy. But yeah, for when I was younger, I think like I was dealing with a lot of different things and like trying to fit in. And I think like some of these situations weren't as positive as I would have hoped them to be. And I was seeing that like I was coming from these situations and like, it would just be negative. And I think that like, I just want to make sure to move through life and give people like the best of me, a good experience. I want to live like whatever like my truth and my purpose is. Give honor back to like my family and my parents, like appreciate them for the things that they've done. Pour into other people as well. Make sure like they are the people around me we are all, moving forward together. I think like those things would make me feel like I have honored my life in a way.
Stunning. Thank you so much for sharing just who you are. And like we follow you on social, and I know that people on the podcast will start following you on social and start going to the flower mart with you and just taking the time. I know that in these moments, like there's, little moments that maybe feel like, it's something might feel small to you, but you definitely craft your life very beautifully, and it moves us. It makes us excited. It makes us want to show up wholeheartedly. So thank you so much for sharing some of who you are with us. We always say my girls, my guys, my group. So you're part of the group now, and I know that people will reach out and be curious about who you are. And just thank you for gifting us some of yourself.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Good.